when we have thoughts that say should in them, that is really, really a good indicator that we are resisting. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. Can you tell that I literally have half a voice? It's so much fun this weekend. So today, instead of talking to you with my raspy voice for the whole time, I'm going to share with you a workshop that I've taught live previously about emotions. This is such an important topic for us as parents because we are constantly invited to have the whole gamut of emotions with our children. They are our best teachers and give us so many opportunities to learn and grow. And sometimes that might feel a little bit frustrating, annoying, irritating, all of the things. And understanding that this is normal, that negative emotions are there to help us just as much as positive emotions, that they're our teacher, what to do with them, how to transmute them, and how to use this emotional fuel to make our lives exactly what we want them to be the parent we want to be, and to help set our kids up to be successful, using all of the emotions, not just the positive ones. The negative ones are just as important and powerful. So that's what we're talking about today. So enjoy this workshop, and I will catch you next time with a fully recovered, healed voice, and we'll talk about more parenting things. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about feeling negative emotions. Life is 50-50 with the emotions, the positive and negative emotions. I want you to all take a second and let yourself have the thought that life is 50-50. Which means, for those of you who haven't heard me talk about this concept before, and it was a hard one for me to get, I was very, very resistant to it when I first started wrapping my brain around this idea that I was going to feel negative emotions half of the time, and I was going to feel positive emotions half of the time. I really just wanted to feel positive emotions all of the time. And so this idea of 50-50, you mean I'm not supposed to be happy all the time, was a hard one for me to wrap my brain around. So I'm just curious, how comfortable or not comfortable are you with this idea that we're going to be experiencing this 50-50 ratio, what we call negative emotions and what we call positive emotions? How does that feel when you think about it? And I think it's important for us to take our temperature on that, because if we think we should be happier or happy all the time or happier than we are, that thought is going to create a lot of pain for us, because things happen outside of us. We know as parents, things happen outside that we just can't control. We make a mistake. Our kids make a mistake. We wish we had done something different. I hadn't yelled or lost my cool last night. I wish my kids would pick up their rooms better. So we have all of these things. Life presents us with pain and sorrow and joy, all of these different scenarios, all these different situations. And it creates different kinds of emotions inside of us. Maybe we have stories that move us into anxiousness or maybe disappointment. And that escalates if we think that we should be happier. Let me see what you guys said about that. Oh yeah, Jess, good. I don't like the negative emotions, but this seems like reality when I think about life. Yeah, it's so interesting. I was exactly the same way. Let's see some of Allison. Yes, negative emotions seem terrible. I've always tried to flee from them. Rachel, yeah, happy. It feels like we should be happy all of the time. That's what I've been taught. You guys are just, yes, you're exactly normal. That's what society has taught us, this idea that the goal is to always be happy. And I'm not at all saying I don't want you to be the happiest and have the most full life you possibly can, but you're going to see how really accepting and settling into this idea that you're going to feel both is actually going to lead you to more power and the ability to move into emotions that I like better more of the time. But not because I'm trying to get away from those negative emotions, but because now those negative emotions aren't so scary or big or real. I haven't met anybody that's, hey, well, for me, I've never been sad, or I've never had sorrow, I've never felt hurt, or I've never felt regret or disappointment or anxiousness. It just seems to be the reality that life presents us with 50% of the time we're feeling amazing and happy and satisfied and peaceful. 50% up to 50%, we are feeling the opposite of that, the pain, the sorrow, anxiousness, disappointment, regret, sadness. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do today is to make peace with the idea that life is 50-50. 50% positive, 50% negative. That doesn't necessarily mean we spend equal amounts of time in both. What I have interpreted that to mean is that I just get presented with things that allow me to move through them about 50-50. And then as I have learned this, as I have understood, what does it mean when I go from mad to sad? I get to decide what that experience is like and how long I stay in the land of frustration and anger. It's not that they don't help me sometimes, they don't teach me things. I just get to decide what I get to do with them. So if we do resist them, if we do end up resisting the negative emotions, let me start there. We start thinking things like, this is bad, this is wrong, shouldn't have gone this way. And that creates a completely different negative experience on top of the negative experience that we're already having. So super interesting to understand that there's layers of emotion that we're creating, and then to take the reins and to say, what do I want to do with that? That is empowering. So our emotions are always created by some type of belief or thought. You could call it a sentence that we have. Even if we aren't aware that we're thinking it, even if it's some subconscious belief or trauma or story, whatever you want to call it, that we've had lodged in there for so many years that we aren't even aware of it anymore, that we aren't even registering it anymore. There's always some type of belief that's buried underneath the emotion. It's really the catalyst that created the emotion. Sometimes it feels pretty buried. So yes. Oh, good. Jess, I always hear from family, it's a choice to be happy or not. So you do not need to feel sad or frustrated. Yeah, that is teaching us that we should never experience those bad emotions. And I would say, hey, what if it's a choice how long I stay, or what I make those negative emotions mean, or what I do with them? Because they are fuel. All emotions are fuel for our benefit, our growth, if we allow them to be there. We just want to decide what's fueling the actions and what's giving us information or helping us move maybe a different direction. So that was a great point. So our emotions are always fueled from a thought we have. So ultimately, yes, we do have the power to control those, but oftentimes the awareness of the belief we have is coming after the emotion comes up. And the more we have it, the more we become aware of it. That doesn't necessarily always mean I can stop negative emotions. All emotions are fuel for our benefit if we allow them to be there. Our emotions are always fueled from a thought we have. So ultimately, yes, we do have the power to control those, but oftentimes the awareness of the belief we have is coming after the emotion comes up. That doesn't necessarily always mean I can stop it. We're going to unpack that a little bit more too. Even if we aren't aware that we're thinking something, there is something there. There's something there, even if we're not registering it. Now, let me give you an example of what it means to not register the emotion anymore, because that might seem strange. So as I've been doing this work, I have realized that I have had a lot of anxiousness in my body, and I don't really know where it came from. It just feels like it's always been there. It had been there for so long that it had become normal for me. For years, I wasn't even aware it was there. Now, as I look back in hindsight, I can clearly see where I was feeling an anxious undertow, and it was preventing me from doing certain things. So let me give you an example of when this could happen in our body. So this is not emotion related, but I think it will give you an illustration of what I'm talking about. When I realized I had this underlying anxiousness, this worry, it was linked with a fear of not feeling safe, which I would have never thought was the case, because I was very safe, had a very nice home and good relationships with my family and my husband. It didn't seem like I had any reason to not feel safe or feel anxious, but it was there and not aware of it. The thing that it reminded me of was when I had done this elimination diet years ago, and I had removed all of these foods, and I didn't think I had any allergies or any sensitivities. But what I realized is when I got rid of all these foods, I had a different default sensation or feeling in my body. It was so weird. And then when I started adding foods back, I was able to become aware of how they actually felt in my body. So before, it had become so normal to feel bloated or to have a little pain after eating ice cream. I thought that was just normal. I didn't even register it as a problem. But after going through this process, I realized that I had just become accustomed to feeling a little bit uncomfortable and bloated and having some pain. And I thought that was normal, but really that wasn't normal. And that's what I'm talking about with these emotions that you might not be registering, that might be there and might be limiting you, is you might even have gotten to the place where they become so normal, that is your new normal. The work is to unpack that so that we can start to see if there are things there that aren't normal. So another example is my daughter broke her foot at Thanksgiving, and it was so painful at first. And even after she got her boot on, it was so painful, but pretty soon her body adapted to that low-grade discomfort of her foot aching and being in a boot. It just became normal. She became acclimated. Is that the right word? Accustomed to it. It's like this with our emotions. We have possibly some low-grade emotions that are always with us. And some of those are going to be serving us and we're going to love them. We're going to be like, yes, stay here forever. And other ones that we might have even had for decades, like the one I started to notice. I noticed it because I realized I was stuck in certain areas. I was banging my head against the wall. And I was like, what is the matter with me? And so when I slowed down and I stopped trying to fix myself and I stopped being critical and I came with compassion, all of a sudden, my nervous system relaxed and I was able to see and feel these emotions. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We might have low-grade emotions that are with us that we haven't noticed for a very long time because they have just become our new normal. So for me, I discovered that I had this thought, took some unpacking. It was like an onion, layer after layer after layer. It took weeks and months of me just calming myself down and realizing I had a hyper sensitivity. I was always on alert. I had this thought that I discovered finally that was, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, what if I fail? What if they don't like me? Oh no, what if I can't figure this out? Oh no, there my kids go again. And it was always there. And it was causing this constant bubble, like bloating in my stomach, this underlying discomfort of worry and anxiousness that was inside of me. And it was subconscious. It wasn't conscious. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't even aware of this. I could tell I was a little bit nervous. I was a little bit anxious. I was a little bit concerned. I was always second guessing myself. And then when I really got down to the depths of it, it was, oh no, oh no, oh no. I was constantly worried that something wrong was going to happen or I was going to do something wrong. So even though I didn't realize it was there for years, because this was very subconscious, it was there because emotions are always caused by a sentence in our brain, either conscious or subconscious. A lot of times it's subconscious. Most of the time it's subconscious until we do this work, until we're confronted with me asking you to make a goal about your parenting or your kids presenting you with opportunity after opportunity after opportunity where you're confronted against a situation that is just not working. So sometimes we're aware of the sentences, and I would say most of the time we're not. So the reason this is so important to know is because once we become aware of those sentences, we have the ability to do something about it. So the thoughts we have, they produce our feelings. And I just want to offer to you that our feelings are information. That when a thought produces an emotion in our body, that is information. For me, it felt like a tug of war was constantly going on inside of my body. I wasn't able to rest or, as I discovered later, feel safe. And that is fantastic information. But when we feel that emotion in our body and we think that something has gone wrong and we think we should be feeling more positively than we are, when we tell ourselves that it's a problem, that it shouldn't be happening, then we get stuck in the same story. There's no awareness that's opening up for us because we're stuck in the dialogue. I should be happier. They shouldn't be doing this. If the kids would just listen, I wouldn't feel so anxious. And we're not getting down to the real story, which is, oh, I'm feeling a little unsafe. I'm feeling a little on edge. I'm feeling a little worried about these things that we can understand once we allow the subconscious stories to come forward. So second thing I want you to consider is that negative emotions, just like positive emotions, are information. Emotions are information. The behavior is information. Instead of thinking something has gone terribly wrong and I need to fix this, I've done something wrong, the judgment that we put over the anxiousness makes it almost impossible for us to understand or release the anxiousness. And this is what I call resistance, to push it away, to ignore it. So a different way to think about negative emotions that's going to begin to help us release it and understand it and feel it is the other option, acceptance. I'm going to take a minute and tell you what I mean by that word when I'm using it right now. Acceptance does not mean that you are saying, I love this feeling. I love feeling this way. I'm totally fine feeling anxious and I'm okay feeling anxious for the rest of my life. No, acceptance doesn't mean that. That's not what I mean. It means that you are accepting that this is what's happening right now. I'm feeling anxious. This is what's happening in my body. This is what is. Acceptance doesn't mean that this is what I always want it to be. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go passive and not move forward in a direction. I'm just going to let it be a standstill. Doesn't mean any of those things. Doesn't mean I'm going to get hung up here or that it's never going to go away. All it means is that right now, in this moment, right now, that we are having right now, I'm feeling anxiousness in my body. And I want you to think about this idea of accepting anxiousness, because when you can settle into, or whatever your emotion is, I'm using anxious, you could fill in the blank with frustration, whatever that negative emotion that you're like, I hate this emotion, I want to just escape forever. When you settle into the acceptance that this is what's happening right now, then you can drop into the experience without resistance, and you can have a conversation with your emotions. Not like a crazy person, but like a really sane person, a really aware person. So if this was happening to me, right, this is the conversation I have. Okay, I'm feeling some anxiousness or frustration or irritation or anger or annoyance, whatever you want to put in there. And what I like to do is I like to put my hands where I feel that emotion, almost like I'm giving that part of my body a big hug. And I'm saying, I feel you, I sense you, almost like it's its own little entity. I'm talking to myself like a loving, kind, nurturing caregiver would, someone who's aware and kind, like that grandma you had, or that neighbor, whoever it was in your life that you can think of that just really accepted you. And I usually take some deep breaths and I start talking or thinking through a conversation with it. Oh, there you are, anxiousness. I feel you right here in my chest. Wow, you're strong today. I feel you pulsing hot right here. I'm feeling anxiousness. So I would go through a conversation. It allows me to pull the motion from being interconnected to me. Now, in English, we say, I am anxious, but in other languages that are better at articulating how emotions actually manifest in our body, like in French, I don't speak French, so don't quote me on this, but my daughter took French in high school and we were having this conversation and we realized that they say, I have frustration would be the translation. And it really allows the languaging to be more accurate. So I have adopted that, saying I have a little bit of anxiousness right now. I have frustration. I have frustration because I think they shouldn't be doing this. I try to get really clear on what actually is happening so I can truly understand it. There you are, anxiousness. Sometimes it does feel like carrying a purse. It's there and I can notice it, but it doesn't have to weigh me down. When I can stay calm and accepting this is available to me, when I start to believe it and I start piling all these other secondary emotions on top of it and believe my story, it's not available to me. So some of the questions I ask myself are, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? If this is information, if this emotion is information, I want to understand it. There's a reason why my brain has decided to bring this emotion up. There's a story that I believe that I want to uncover. There's nothing to be afraid of or embarrassed about or any of that. Let me understand you. Please let me understand you. I'm not afraid of you. You don't control me. You're just a little something I have with me today. Please let me know what you want me to learn, because I want to get better at understanding it so I can have more control over what happens next. It gives me a chance to engage with the emotion and understand the emotion instead of resisting it, because resisting it just keeps me stuck. It makes me think I am frustration. I am anxious. It feels like it's defining me. Sometimes my anxiousness tells me, I just need a hug. I just need you to notice me. I just needed you to hear me. I just needed you to validate me. And that's all it needed. But sometimes there's a thought there that I discover when I calm myself down. I put my hands on my chest. I take some deep breaths and the thought bubbles up. I'm worried I'm going to mess up. I have this big project. I don't know if I'm going to make the deadline. Or I'm stewing about a conversation I had last night that I'm now thinking I didn't say things the right way, or I'm never going to figure this out. So sometimes I can settle into it and I can think I'm here and I can think something new. I can have this awareness, this understanding, and I can go, oh, right, I see this. And I can move forward. I can change directions. My favorite thought about anxiousness is I'm going to figure this out. If I'm feeling open and accepting of the emotion without resistance, I can settle into that thought and I can love it. It helps me begin to feel calm and confident when I do that. I'm able to feel acceptance of the anxiousness And I'm able to let that move me in a really powerful, positive direction because it's actually not the thing driving the engine anymore. There's something else that's come in because I've paused the model. If you're thinking of the steer model, I'm coming in and I'm putting I am anxious into the thought line, which then allows a different emotion to actually be the engine, the fuel to my actions. So I'm able to feel and accept anxiousness instead of worry about it or dread about the thing that was causing it. When I instead worry or dread or think I shouldn't be feeling this way, then I'm stacking on top of the anxiousness other feelings. And because of that, I'm not able to get to the root of what's going on. So we first have to accept it before we're able to settle into believing that I'm going to be able to change directions or use this in a way that's helpful. I need to be able to figure this out is the thought I love to go to, but sometimes I can't think a new thought. My brain is pretty certain that this story and this emotion are real and that they are me, and my brain won't let me believe something else. And I'm not ready to accept it yet. Maybe it's a really new situation that triggered this story that I've had for a while, but it's a new situation. So it feels really big. That's totally fine. In this case, I focus on feeling the emotion, which is also a super powerful process because feeling the emotion gives me the power over it. Because when you're willing to feel an emotion, it doesn't have control over you. You know, it isn't you. You switch the dialogue from I am frustrated to I have frustration for the day maybe, or for the week. And I just keep noticing it and seeing when I'm going to be ready to open up that emotion and feel it more. So when we are willing to feel an emotion, it doesn't have the ability to control you. It doesn't feel like it's pushing you and didn't have any choice. It was knee-jerk reaction. I couldn't even stop myself. That doesn't happen anymore because we're feeling it. So you believe that you are able to feel any emotion that comes up. And I have to tell you, especially as a mom, that is so empowering. That fear of experiencing some emotion, rage, anger, frustration, and not knowing exactly what's going to happen next, or actually knowing what might happen next because of what happened next yesterday, to be able to not have that be part of my operating system is so empowering. The fear of experiencing an emotion goes away because the emotion is no longer linked to this story and this action and this result. We're pausing and breaking apart the steer model that used to run, and we're installing a new one. I've disconnected the emotion. I'm interrupting the train by slowing it down and feeling it. Even if I can't change directions, I am changing directions by just feeling it. I might not be able to move to a new thought, but even if you're just feeling it, you are changing the directions. You're slowing things down. The momentum is different. So feeling the feeling is what gives you the power over it. When you're willing to feel any emotion, no emotion is a problem for you anymore. Let me say that again, because when you can accept, this is what I am feeling. I'm angry. I have the feeling of sadness. It feels a little awkward sometimes when we say it in English because we're so used to saying I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm embarrassed. But when we can translate it and be like, I have anger, I have sadness, I'm experiencing, you can use that word too, I'm experiencing embarrassment, or this is shame. I love saying it like that too. This is shame. This is anger, really calling it out. And when you can just be in that emotion with compassion and awareness, your self-confidence, it's going to be so much bigger and stronger, amplified, because you're going to be able to have the awareness that you can feel anything and it's not going to take over. This is a superpower that anyone can develop, because what it means is that there is nothing I'm unwilling to feel. And you can even decide that when I'm feeling anxious, it means I'm going in the right direction. The negative emotion doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. It means I'm doing something right. I'm making progress. I'm changing old patterns. Every time you set a goal, you're going to be, I promise you, you're going to be confronted with a big emotion because you're doing something new and you have a belief that has not allowed you to do that in the past. So when you set a big goal, which is what we're all doing, which is why we're continuing making the most incredible progress here in this group. And I'm so proud of you guys, but learning the skill of feeling our emotions is going to be one of the most important tools you have on your new Connect Method parenting tool belt. And what I also want to offer is you're going to up level here, the 101 level, and then it's 202 and then 3. We're going to get a PhD in this until we feel so calm and confident with this. There's always room for improvement, but every level is going to feel amazing. Okay, let me look at your questions. Jillian, I know you're saying life is 50-50, but my experience is more like 95-10. 95% positive emotions, 5% challenging emotions. Can you talk a little bit more about this? I feel so thankful for the many blessings in my life and have a very positive outlook on life. All right, Jillian, great question. I'm certainly not going to try to talk you into feeling more negative emotions or have you artificially manufacture negative emotions at all. But what I do want you to do is to find some time. A couple of thoughts came to my mind. One, find some time where you can really feel in your body. Emotions produce sensations. It's like I was saying, for me, a lot of my emotions show up in my chest. And I want you to get really familiar with how these positive emotions that you're feeling in your body feel. How do those positive emotions show up? And this will be so fantastic for you. So much more awareness will open up and it's going to be fabulous. So that would be step one. And then I would ask yourself as you're sitting there, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Remember, I was saying that for me, I wasn't aware. I was like you. I was like, I'm 95.5. I don't get this whole 50-50 thing. I think that's a bunch of baloney. And I didn't get it. But when I sat with myself and first actually started experiencing, because I wasn't really truly, even for me, this might not be the case for you, but I'll just speak for me. I wasn't truly feeling the sensation of the positive emotions. Truly, I was just on the surface level. So when I dove deeper and let myself feel those emotions in my body, like deep down, that was amazing. It just taught me so much. It expanded my emotional vocabulary, my emotional awareness, my emotional maturity. Now, do that. And then when you ask, is there anything else? This is when other things can open up for you. So what other things might be there when your body feels safe? Sometimes it's, oh, now I can let you feel these things. No negative emotions might come up, but just ask yourself, just get curious, just see, oh, what else am I feeling? And even if it's all the different layers and flavors of a positive emotion, you want to be aware of all of that. But my question for you, my other question would be, and this is what I have found for myself and for all the ladies I've worked with and some men, I do work with some dads too. There's dads in here, but all of us is that sometimes when we're feeling this like hum of positive emotions, I'm realizing more and more, and I began to realize this a while ago, that I'm not moving in the direction I want to be moving in my life. As we go through setting very specific, strategic, constrained goals, and we're working on those, you're going to have some stuff come up. But sometimes when we keep things vague, we're not really wanting to problem solve, we're just wanting to keep the peace. Sometimes we can get where we don't notice some of the other things going on. So my second question is, are you moving in the direction that you want to be moving in your life in terms of setting big goals? Pushing through areas where you might feel stuck or plateaued, when we're trying to do something new, when we're pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone, where we're going for that big goal that we've wanted to, but have kept delaying, challenging ourselves to learn a new skill or bust through something that we've been putting off or avoiding. That is oftentimes what will allow us to be confronted with this 50-50. So the opposite of keeping the status quo, like, well, I'm not really loving what's going on over there, but I don't really want to disrupt it. And I'm not really feeling the momentum towards where I want to be going because I'm avoiding it. I'm guessing with the goals that you've made that there's some things that will come up, and realize that when they do, it's actually a really good thing because you're moving and expanding. As those negative emotions come up, as we discover the stories behind them so that we can release and move forward, take time to really feel those emotions as they bubble up, because the goal you've set for yourself is worth it. It's worth feeling that. It's worth discovering those uncomfortable thoughts, being really honest and vulnerable, even though you might feel a little embarrassed by it. So yes, what do my emotions feel like in my body? That's what I would ask. I would ask, is there anything else? And then Jillian, if nothing's coming up, I would just say it's probably time to set a really big goal, really challenging thing for you to see where do you want to expand so that you can work through and grow, because discomfort is the currency to success. It's true in all areas of our life. Discomfort is the thing that up levels us to the next level. Okay, another question here. Emily, if feelings create actions that then lead to results, don't we need to change negative emotions to positive emotions to create positive action? So I love this. The answer is no. You can actually feel that negative emotion in your body without letting it be the fuel that drives your actions. The process of having our prefrontal cortex come online, which happens between 7 and 10, if everything's going great, we begin to be more and more capable of holding contrasting emotions and beliefs at the same time, and then deciding which one's going to be the fuel to drive the train. And the more we understand the tools we're talking about in here, the more you're going to be able to do that with confidence and consistency. So let me give you 2 examples. The first one is a non-parenting related example. The second one, I'll do a parenting one because sometimes it's nice to have the contrast. So every time I go to post something on social media, I always feel anxious when I'm posting about what I believe about parenting, and maybe it's going on my personal page. I have the same playlist of thoughts that pop up in my head, and no one wants to hear this. You don't have anything new to say. Probably going to sound dumb. I bet people are getting bugged at seeing you post so often. Everybody said anything that's worth saying already. Who are you to post anything? So those thoughts kind of like come up for a minute. My brain, don't you want to think those? Because I practiced those for so long. But because I have felt it so often now, and I've continued to move through them, I always catch those thoughts and I notice the thoughts and the emotions, the anxiousness that pops up or the worry, whatever the emotion of the day is that's a result of those thoughts. And because of that, I'm aware of those thoughts and I can just say to myself, I can have that conversation. I can put my hand on my chest and take a couple deep breaths and say, oh, there you are again, right on time. I see you. And I give myself a little bit of validation and acknowledgement that they're there, that this is part of me that feels this way and it's not a problem. And then I'm able to take the deep breath and I'm able to post anyway. Now, technically, am I changing my thoughts? Yes. But my original thoughts, no one wants to hear me or whatever, change into, oh, I see you. Did you see? It's very subtle. I noticed the model. I can see if I let that play out, I'm going to feel anxious. I'm not going to post. I'm going to second guess. I'll probably write something not great. And then the result is I don't post, or I post something and feel awful about it or whatever. That's the old model. I look at it. Ooh, I see you. So as soon as I go into I see you, then the emotion of acceptance comes up. And if I was thinking about steer models popping above my head, then the model that's in the driver's seat is acceptance. So I can hold both. I can see the other model, I can see the other thought, I can see the other emotions, and I can then pause and pop in. I see you right on time. I'll see you again tomorrow when I post. So the emotion of acceptance comes up. And then the actions I take are continue to notice it. I see those habit thoughts that are there and I'm able to just accept them. You could say my result is that I believe I'm going to do my best and I post anyway. So, okay, let me see if you said, yeah, I believe I'm doing my best and that it's okay that I'm thinking this way. And when I settle into this, even another steer model then pops into the driver's seat. We have a car full, one of those big, huge 12-passenger vans because I have so many models going on the drive with me that day. Back in the back seat is the one that was full of anxiousness. I can kind of feel that. I'm not stuffing. I'm just noticing it's there. I'm giving permission. And then the acceptance model pops in. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling acceptance. And then maybe even a different model pops in and I'm able to think something like, I'm learning to share my message no matter what. And then maybe my emotion is determined. And then my action is I post on social media, even though I can feel a little bit of anxiousness, I also feel a little bit of acceptance about it. So I can see and feel all of those things and I post anyway. It's not me saying push through. It's actually accept through, move through it with acceptance and love. Okay, so the parenting example. Let me think of a parenting example because it's good to, I like having something that's you can wrap your brain around without it being maybe so personal. So the parenting example, okay, this is especially something I struggled with at the beginning, shifting my beliefs around messy house. I would go into my boy's room, and if I'm making this factual, the situation would be unmade bed, dirty clothes on the floor, maybe some plates of food under the bed, socks, whatever it is. I'd be as specific as possible. And my default thought was my kids should not leave their room looking like this. And I'd get angry, go on a rampage if I kept the model going, yelling at the kids and feeling guilty about yelling. And the result would be me totally disconnected with my kids and myself, all of that, blah, terrible. So let's go through what we've been talking about today when instead we accept the anger. So what I started doing, I'm going to say this is step one. We'll see if I can stick with the steps. So step one, make the connection. For me, I made the connection that anger was a trigger emotion that I wanted to practice ahead of time, but I wanted to reroute the trigger. The old trigger was go on a rampage. It triggered me to go on a rampage and yell and regret. And I was like, I want to use this emotion to trigger something else. So it was trigger training. I don't know if that's really a thing, but that's what I started reconditioning so that anytime I felt angry, when I walked into the kids' room, I started telling my body that was going to be a signal to interrupt the model I was feeling, the thoughts I was believing, the story I had, and instead to accept it, like I was saying above. So this took some time. So step one was getting really familiar with the default model, thought downloading about it, getting really uncomfortable as I really got honest with myself with the stories that were coming up. So this deep drop into acceptance. And showing up and having another person. That's why we have calls that we're going to have where you can get on and ask questions. Like today, we're doing it through the Q&A, but there will also be opportunities where you can come on screen if that's helpful. Sometimes that's more helpful. Sometimes it's more helpful to do it in the Q&A. I was able to come into different places where I had access to people to look at my stuff and for them to be able to hold this space, which is what I'm offering to you, and to be able to say, oh, okay, let's look at your old model. This was before I was able to step into full acceptance of it. I really had to understand it, which is so pivotal. It's critical for us to understand our own stuff so that we can show up differently. We think if the kids would change, then we'll show up differently. But if we accept ourselves, if we understand ourselves, our own behavior, if we leave room for all of our behavior, the 50-50, the negative, the positive behavior and emotions, when we can leave space for that and accept that, man alive, we're so much more equipped to do that for our kids. So I got, first of all, really, 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 really familiar. My best friend was this anger model, and I had different variations of it. And I would download and do the models on it. And there were so many variations. It was like I had volumes of models around the house being clean and the kids doing their stuff. And I wanted to understand all of it. So my intention became, I am wanting to be an expert on what anger is for me, what that's about. I want to know everything about it. Like I was a scientist. So this took some time. Getting familiar with my default model, doing the thought downloads, modeling. So I get so much awareness. So step one has to be awareness of what is actually happening inside of us. Even thinking about it right now, it brings up emotions, and they're not as strong by any stretch of the imagination, but they're still there. There is still a residual there. And that would have used to have been a sign of failure. I hadn't completed the process. And now I see it not as a sign of failure, but as a sign of progress. I am mature emotionally enough to hold these emotions, all types of flavors of these emotions. And some of them are bitter and some of them are just so delicious. And I can hold them all and not want to run away from any of them. And I get to decide which one is driving the train today. So I reframed my anger to trigger me into awareness instead of into angry action. And that only could happen because I became so aware of the emotion in the first place and not afraid of the emotion. We have to have the awareness and the gentleness and the compassion, totally, fully, wholly accepting it. Instead of having it trigger me into a tirade, it triggered me into awareness. So let's call that step one. So step two was practicing accepting anger instead of reacting to it. Now I can trigger my brain to go into acceptance and understanding instead of into angry cleaning and angry yelling. Then I went into hyper mode about it. I'm committed to accepting when the anger bubbles up, using it as a signal to my brain to pause and to accept. What it did is it paused the actions that came from anger and it moved me into the direction I wanted to. Like it really catapulted me into more love, more growth, more power to use the anger to trigger me to remember to pause and to decide what those actions were. So now I had to learn how to accept and feel the anger. So I was unlinking, untethering, decoupling. I came up with strategies ahead of time that would prepare me in the moment to try to do better and better in real time. Initially, I was terrible in real time. I couldn't stop it if my life depended on it, even though I did all this prep work, because I still went into fight or flight mode in the moment. So I was coming up with strategies ahead of time that would start to help me feel and accept it instead of react to it. So I would brainstorm, what would I want to think? And I would write those sentences down for me. I'd write them on a 3x5 card. You could write them on your hand like you used to in junior high. Did you guys ever do that? For whatever reason, I would write on pen on my hand. You could do that. I wanted to have clear instructions on what to do when I felt angry, how to remind myself, oh, this is a trigger. So I would baby step myself along. What am I going to feel when the anger bubbles up because the house wasn't clean? I was deprogramming the anger, but it was only possible to deprogram and then reprogram my brain to think of anger as information and as a catalyst to pause because of the deep level of understanding I had been willing to do ahead of time. If we don't do that work, we can't get into acceptance of it. And when we can't get into acceptance of it, it's like trying to think something great about something terrible. I hate pickles. I don't know why, but I just pickles. For me to put Nutella on the pickle and then be like, well, I love Nutella. I'm going to put it on the pickle and the pickle's going to taste great and I'm going to love it. No, the pickle's still going to be a pickle and the Nutella on the pickle is probably going to be worse than just me eating the pickle because it's going to be this funky flavor. I use that example. It's a ridiculous example, I know, but I use that example because That's what happens when we don't accept. We have to accept it so that we can reprogram it. Then the anger is no longer the thing that's fueling the actions. It's not the thing that's powering us. The feeling of anger actually gets moved into the action line. If you want to get model nerdy with me here for a minute, we move anger into the action line and the whole steer model flips. So the model would look something like, the thought is, this is anger. Now I'm holding the anger. I'm looking at it, understanding it. And now the emotion is curious or acceptance. And now the actions are, I'm feeling the anger, I'm accepting the anger. And the result is more awareness than acceptance over anger. That's just one way the model could flow. But just so you have this idea of like, oh, that's what's possible. And then what would happen next, what I did and what I continue to do, this is never ending work as we continue to uplevel our lives, is I created a whole new model about the room. Eventually I had a whole new default way of believing about it. Does the anger still come up sometimes? Yeah, sometimes. If I haven't slept, if I'm sick, if I'm overwhelmed with all of my tasks, yeah, sometimes it bubbles up. I'm not afraid of it. It doesn't ever need to be taking control. And if it did for some reason, I would be okay with that too. I'm a human, messy human. But a new model might look like I go into the same situation with the clothes and on the floor and the food under the bed and whatever. And I think I can figure this out. And then I feel capable. And then my actions are, I think about it and I come up with a solution to the problem. Okay, this has been happening a lot again, but I'm in this calm, accepting place. So when I go talk to the kids, it's different. When I come up with my solutions, I'm actually being able to access the most incredible part of my brain, the highest level of thinking. So I figure the situation out. You don't have to wait until you eliminate the emotion before you start taking action. I can feel anger, and I did, and sometimes I still do. I can feel anger or anxiousness. I can feel it and accept it, and I can still let it be in my body as it move through all those things I was just talking about, and then take actions that create results I really like while still having some of those other residual emotions, maybe in the passenger seats in the back of my car as I'm driving my car, my life. So you don't have to change the negative emotions to positive emotions to take action. And I think that's really where the magic is. That is really what life is about. Not a feeling happy and positive all of the time, but being able to hold contrasting emotions in our body at the same time and deciding intentionally which emotion you're going to use to fuel your actions. Because if you had to wait until you felt 100% positive emotions all of the time before you took actions, you'd have to wait a long time. There's stuff that would not be getting done because we'd be so worried about trying to get rid of those negative emotions that we wouldn't be able to transition into what we want. So Stephanie, I feel anger more than anything else. Yeah, sometimes that's the case. I feel more negative emotions than positive emotions. I would say I'm 95.5. Okay, so Stephanie, here's what I have to offer to you. I would ask why you're feeling so much anger and think about that. This goes for everybody. If you feel like right now I am really off on the other direction, probably because we're not feeling it, we're resisting it. But if we allow ourselves to say, this is okay. And I will say sometimes it feels like this. 50-50 doesn't mean like half the day I'm feeling this 50 positive and negative. Like some days it's like 100% negative this day, 100% positive this day. That's sometimes what 50-50 looks like. But asking ourselves, why am I feeling so much anger? Maybe it's because you feel like your life is out of control. And then getting as specific as you can about what is it about my life that I feel out of control? Can I pick a specific situation that this emotion comes up to help me make some traction with it? And then understanding if it was the kids just are always late to school and I can't get them off fast enough, digging into that. I get so frustrated and angry when this happens again and again, and finding the awareness shifting into I am angry right now. If you could bring that emotion of anger or frustration or whatever that negative emotion, I think you said, what is that negative emotion or those negative emotions that you're having, that you're experiencing right now? Where do you feel them in your body? How do they feel? Try putting your hand on the part of your body, taking some breath, saying, this is anger, this is frustration. I accept this anger or frustration right now. And when you do that, seeing if it doesn't provide a little bit of relief, because we're starting to decouple the story from the emotion. They're so intertwined and they're so real. And we're trying to say, let's pull those things apart. So thinking things also too, just heads up, because this is a pretty common error. When we have thoughts that say should in them, that is really, really a good indicator that we are resisting. That's how resisting is coming up. It's coming up in a way that isn't helping us accept. So shouldn't is a poisonous word because it gets us stuck. This is how resistance shows up so much for us moms, is they shouldn't be doing this, or they should be doing this. And we're in this tug of war. They should be kinder and putting their stuff away. And as parents, we have the idea of how things should be. They should be quiet, the house should be neat, da, 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 da. And this sounds really simple, but I would just say, if we're feeling that anger, allowing ourselves to get familiar with it. Do your thought downloads. Why am I angry? How is it okay that this is happening? Or even saying this is happening right now. Even saying that is going to help you pause your old patterns of resistance and stop you from being at war with what's happening right now. But it doesn't mean you don't do anything or you become passive. For example, if you had two kids that have gotten into the habit of really picking on each other, and that's bringing up some stuff, I would look at it. This was happening in my home, which it has happened. I have two kids that seem to be a little bit at odds with each other. And I would say, oh, this is what's happening. Of course, they're figuring out how to get along. Of course, they're bickering over who gets to sit at the front seat. What do you call that? Shotgun. Or of course, they're wanting to both have the last treat from dinner or whatever. Of course, this is happening. So when we can accept them, we can move in close with love and be able to have the kind of relationship we want with them. We don't have to sacrifice that. I see what you're doing and I can accept it. And I can say, no, we're not going to do that. I see you. I love you. And this is a no. Whether we're saying those words, to be able to come with so much compassion and firmness. I don't have to choose one or the other. I don't have to be in resistance of what is. I get to just be there and love them, understand them, and set a limit. Of course, they're fighting and picking on each other. And that's a no. So I'm going to leave you with that. Emily, good question. I feel like if we can do this for ourselves, then we can hold the space and help our children through their process. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. It is totally intertwined and interconnected. A lot of times people come into this group and they're surprised and not expecting that the work is as much about us as it is about how we are with our kids, about helping our kids do something better or understand something better. I would say it like this, Emily. When we can understand our own emotions and our behavior and our triggers, and we can leave space for all of it, then we are going to be able to understand our kids' emotions, their triggers, their behaviors, and leave space for that, which empowers us to create exactly what we want in our home, the loving, connected relationships we want, to still be able to be compassionate and firm so that we can create what we really want. So in order for you to get what you really want, right, for all of us, we have to understand ourselves so deeply. I'm so glad that hit for you, Emily. It took me a long time to get this. I was like, I just want to fix the kids. So we have to eliminate shoulds though. Of course it's happening. Yes, this is happening. Get out of the shoulds, get out of the resistance. Say, yes, this is happening. Try that one on, guys. Tell me what you think. This is a process and it takes a while to be able to notice that you can feel that old story bubble up and that old feeling of aggravation or annoyance or frustration bubble up, but not let it lead you to believe that you have to do anything. You can say yes to the situation and yes to the emotions and no to the behavior. And when it comes up, we just notice it. If it comes up even more, we start to not be able to sit into that. We just love ourselves more. We say yes to our emotions. Man, I'm really resisting this. We're just offering that acceptance and that love. Of course, part of me thinks this doesn't want to happen, but part of me is accepting it too. We're holding those different emotions in tandem at the same time. Yes to me, yes to them, no to the behavior. Of course, this is happening. I want to stay in a loving connection with them. I want to notice what's coming up for them or for me. This goes for all of us. So understanding that life is 50-50, that all emotions are welcome, that all these emotions are information. All of this is so helpful as we're navigating parenting. So I hope that helped you just crack that idea open a little bit more, why it's so important and powerful that we understand it for ourselves, that we apply it to ourselves. And then absolutely we can help our children. It will happen naturally the more it becomes native to us. So I love you all. It was so good to talk to you today. Have a fabulous rest of your day and we will talk soon. We'll see you later. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening, you all. If you are ready to learn more about Connect Method Parenting, if you've been listening to the podcast and you think, ooh, I'd love to be able to implement this in my life and with my parenting more, then check out Pivot. It's my 8-week program where we deep dive into learning and implementing Connect Method Parenting so that you can take this information and transform your parenting journey. Head over to connectmethodparenting.com to find out when the next group starts.